Good morning. It is week 5, day 2 of Youth Rush. We are almost at the halfway point. This weekend, I get to go home, spend the whole weekend with my family, a little bit of time with my church family as well. I get to share my testimony at two different churches, so one during Sabbath school and one during the main service. And so, which is wonderful, just more opportunity to praise God and share what He's been doing in my life as well as here at Youth Rush. Yesterday was Sunday, so we went door to door the whole day because we don't do businesses on Sunday. It was a dry morning. A lot of people were not home or just about to leave, but I was able to meet this lady. She was starting her own business, and the program she was doing it through, they said, their ideology was God first, family second, business third. And because of that, she actually started going back to church. She was, I believe, raised Catholic, grew away from the church, and then is now just coming back. And she got a paz, which is wonderful because it's a devotional, and I pray that it would really help her. And so we were in a bit of a sketchier neighborhood, so I asked CJ, in these situations or this kind of place, is there anything we should say, do, certain ways to act, if there are certain phrases to look out for? And he said, you have to be very conscious of the tone of voice. Especially because there's a lot of screen doors we can't really see in, or see the body language of the people we're talking to, so you have to be very conscious of tone of voice. He was with this one canvasser yesterday at a door, and the guy on the other side he was wearing crutches. At the canvasser's view, he couldn't really see, but from CJ's angle, he could see a little bit more. And so he was just like leaning on the crutches. The guy, he's like, I'm not gonna open the door. I'm not gonna give you any money. The canvasser does 3 strikes. The guy's all like, no, 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 no. He goes to the drop down, and he's like, anything you feel like giving, another strike for the drop down. People donate anywhere from $2 to $5. Strike 2 for the drop down. Even a quarter, strike 3 for the drop down. And then CJ was like, if he tried to do another strike, I was just gonna pull that canvasser out. And he's like, oh, sorry, our bad. We'll leave, because he saw the guy, his tone of voice changes, like, I told you I'm not going to give you any money. He was pretty chill the whole conversation up to that point where he had just already gotten too many strikes in. And then so, like, CJ saw him, like, stand up straight and put his crutches aside. So he said, like, this canvasser was about to get jumped. And he was like, you have to be conscious of those things. And so, it's just something to keep in mind. Later that day, I went up to this man, and he had a very beautiful house. It was like a red barn style house, another like barn thing at the back. And then so I was commenting, and I was like, oh, this is really beautiful, whatever. And then he was like, what are you doing, blah blah blah. And then so he's like, oh, okay, books on donation. And he said, where are you studying? And people have sometimes want to just make sure that you're actually who you say you are. So, where are you studying? What are you studying? Who is this group with? And to see if you know the answers to those questions. And you have to know, what do you want to become? I'm a computer science major. I want to be a software engineer working on apps and web development, and web-based applications. And then he was like, oh, okay. And then he's like, because he was in a not the best neighborhood, he said, how people get into the life of gangs and drugs, and they end up being a hindrance or burden to society. And he was like, but I see that you're trying to get ahead, trying to better yourself, and I appreciate that. And he gave a $20 donation. He's like, I don't want any books, which I just like, oh, just take the books, because we had a van goal yesterday of getting 90 books out. I think we got somewhere closer to 70 books out, which is still good, but we were really praying for that 90. 90 bucks to go out. And then so I, after that man, I got to this other driveway, and then it was, there were two gentlemen in the back. So I walked to the back and say, hey, my name is Gabriella, this is what we're doing, and show them the habits that heal. And then he was like, oh, this is interesting. And then I was like, it was like, you do this, and they like, you just go door to door, like, they're like, that's brave, like, you don't know whose driveway or whose door you're gonna end up, which is true. We never know what's gonna happen in the field, but God has been good with protecting us. And so I was like, yeah, this is actually one of the scariest things I've ever done with my summer. I was like, I have never talked to so many strangers in my whole life, because if you think about it, I use about 2 glow packs a day. A glow pack is 100 glow tracks, and so I leave one at each door and with each person that I see, with that I meet. And so if I'm using about 200 a day, let's say half of them aren't home, I'm still talking to about 100 strangers, and having conversations. And if you think about it, or probably less than 100, but if you think about it, it is work that is exhausting physically, because you're doing a lot of walking, you're in the heat, you're carrying like 15 books. But it is also emotionally exhausting, because you're trying to connect to so many people, and then some of them will tell you, oh, I'm just about to get a divorce, I am just about to get kicked out of my apartment, and that's when you offer prayer, and then, so it's also spiritually exhausting, because you're like, Lord, help me, give me faith, and then sometimes things don't turn out the way you would think, and you're like, Lord, why? But he is faithful and he refreshes. But then there is just exhaustion from all different areas, and so that is one of the reasons, where you're just talking to so many people, so many strangers, and then you're like, this is what you're doing is so brave. And they were like kind of impressed at the way I was answering objections, because I was like, oh, I'm not interested. It's like, oh, let me show you this book instead. Oh, this is really cool. And then like all these different, I was just answering the different objections, and they were really impressed. They didn't end up getting any books, but I was able to pray with them. And then so I left them with glow tracks. One of them is flying out today to Indiana, and I was able to pray for his flight, and for the other man for his daughter who's pregnant, for the health of the child. And then so I left. I did get to go to this family. It was a younger family, and then they said the guy was like opening the door just so I could get the book in, and closing it, and then open, close, and he was like, I'm not properly dressed, I wouldn't be so rude otherwise. And he was like, let me just get dressed. And then he came back to the door, and then so you talked to her, and then there was a woman, and so I was showing him story time and habits, because I knew they had kids, and then so the woman, I showed her the lessons of love as well, which is the parables of Christ. She's like, I only have $10, and I was like, you can get any one of those for the $10, and she ends up getting lessons of love, signing up for a correspondence Bible studies, as well as she signed up for all the programs we have. So like Stop Smoking, Vacation Bible School, Revelation Seminar, Natural Foods Cooking, which is, wonderful, just more avenues for that family to meet the Lord. I did get to this one guy. He was obviously a smoker. Okay, so the other family, I didn't smell any smoke, but I offered, like, I just went through the services anyway, and they signed up for everything. And then one other guy, like, I could obviously smell the smoke, and then he ended up getting a habit, and he was like, oh yeah, I'm like, he wanted to do, he signed up for the I'm blanking out, for the Stop Smoking program. He's like, I tried stop smoking so many times. I was like, when we have it in the area, we can give you the stop smoking. We can contact you and then offer that service to you. And it's like, hopefully I stop smoking before then. And and I told him, the habits that heal is really gonna help with that. And so I hope that makes a positive impact on his life. I did have kind of a situation towards the end of the night. I was at this one door, and then the guy takes the habits that heal, and then I was like, and I thought he was gonna show it to someone else, but he just like took the book in, and then he gave me a $5. Came back and gave me a $5 bill, and I was like, people actually donate closer anywhere from like 10 to 20 for that book, and then he was like, you didn't tell me no price, and then slams the door in my face, and I'm like, my book. But I mean, it's just $5, and then an over donation earlier that night covers it anyway. But it was just like, um, thank you, Lord, for covering the cost of that book. So I better read it, and I hope it like convicts him and has like a positive impact on his life. But yeah, that is all for today. I'm excited to see what the Lord has in store for the rest of the day. And yeah, bye. I love you.